is Linh Nguyen, and my co-host is
Edward Thomas.
Lamar.
Don't give up my middle name. Now the FBI can track me.
For what? What to do?
I don't know. They just like to look at me. They send people after me all the time. I think they do it to train. Like,
yeah, find this guy.
If you can't find this guy, you suck. He's so easy to find. Okay.
Okay, so we've had some input, and people wanted us to talk about intercultural, interracial. How would you call it? Intercultural, interracial,
interplanetary
relationships and couples.
Yeah. So couples that come from two different, let's say,
planets.
Yes. Well, it could be like two different cultures. It could be two different
countries.
Like it could be like European American, European Asian, like that. So it's maybe not necessarily a specific country. It could just be a geographical area. But that could also be extended even to like the social strata. So you can have like someone who comes from a really wealthy family and another person who comes from a really poor family.
Do you think we can cover that?
Uneducated. We can cover everything. but we've decided to slim it down and to talk about like the whole
different cultures.
Yeah, so the multicultural relationship kind of thing.
Because we got some credits on merits on that, don't we?
Yes, we do. We have all the experience that we need. And that's why we want to give the help to someone else,
So
yes.
you're Black American.
No, that's what they tell me. So my DNA test says.
And your wife is Swedish.
Wow,
she's a white Swedish lady.
That's what she told me. I think she told me, she's like, I'm like a black Swedish person. And I met her, because like that mail order thing, so you just pick the picture and you like.
No, stop that. It's not the topic of this podcast.
Okay. No, that's not how I met my wife. She was a real living, breathing person in front of me. No, but that was like, it was
how
really
many years ago?
I know, something like, ooh, that was like 28 years ago. But when we met in the States, and so when we met in the States, we're hanging out in the States and stuff. My wife never noticed how other people stared at us.
Why?
Because she was from Sweden. She was from Skellefteå, which is way up north. And so because she grew up, when my wife grew up, there was no black people around. So she never met a black person until she left.
She's like, ooh, exotic.
She's like, what's that? Look at that color. Can you have that much color? How long do you have to be in the sun for that? Is that natural? What? Look at that hair.
No, she didn't ask me that.
I have no idea what she thought. But it makes a really funny story if she did think that way. Because it would be really funny.
I don't think she's dumb.
Well, maybe that's the way I like them. I'm just kidding, honey. Don't beat me when I get home. No, but it's so it was both that we were both black and white, which is more significant if she had been a white American person, because the differences between black America and white America is really different, as opposed between maybe a white person from Sweden and someone's black, because
now it comes.
She wasn't woke. My wife just didn't understand. Like she
wasn't woke. So
no,
you just
she's
say
like,
that.
Yes, because she's just like, I don't understand. Why is there all this tension between black people and white people? Like, did you just say that? Okay, what's up with you, lady? And still like today. I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen that it's just because we come from two different cultural places and have two different perspectives on things. And so there's just so many things. Like one day she said, why, when you get off the shower, why do you always have to like smell your end, Ed? They always have to like put lotion on and everything. I'm just like, are you goofy? I am a black person with really dry skin. You want alligator skin next to you in the bed? If I don't put lotion on me, I will not be smooth, okay? I'll be like scraping the paint off the walls if my brush against them. My skin will be so dry, so it starts flaking off like cornflakes. So there's just like when we go on that vacation, my wife says, Ed, why can't you sit in the sun with me? Like, for what? I'm already brown. I don't need to be browner. You have to work on being brown. I don't need to be brown. I can sit in the shade. She's like, if you just sit in the sun, you really... What? No, I don't enjoy it. I'm like a solar cell. I just get hot and sweaty and just irritable. And she's out there. And you touch her skin's all cold to the touch.
Cool.
Yeah, but she turns red. I mean, she's
So she doesn't turn brown. She turns red.
She's like a lobster put in the water. She's like bright red, Or sometimes it's like, because I don't understand what it's like to be sunburned. Mm-hmm. So my wife's out there. I just want to get a little color on me. I'm like, if I wanted to marry you with color, I wouldn't have married you. I would have married somebody from India maybe or something, And she's out there like roasting herself. And then she gets all swollen up. And then I'm like, you look really red. Let me touch you. She's like, ah! I was like, huh. Obviously, God did not mean for you to be in the sun. I could be in the sun as long as you are. Wouldn't happen to me. I feel like fine. So obviously, one of us is doing something wrong here. She's like, it's just not fair. All of you guys in the family can be brown except for me. I'm like,
how is that not fair? It's just nature.
Because Swedish people are the strangest white people in the world.
How?
Because they think they're the only white people in the world who are not supposed to be white. They think they can walk on the sun and they're gonna look like black people.
Some Swedish people are really obsessed with getting a tan. Like they would do anything to get a tan.
Yeah, they'd probably kill a black person, just peel off the skin.
That escalated fast. Just
Did I go there? I don't think I went there.
Whoa, you are on thin ice here.
I know. We gotta get some letters now.
Okay, moving on to my side. I'm Asian, born in Germany, and my husband is very Swedish.
So does that make you so if you had cabbage in Germany, that would be sauerkraut.
Yeah.
But because you're Asian, do they call you kimchi?
Why would they call me kimchi?
Because that's like Asian pickles.
Cabbage. You know how we have a
Do you have anything like that in Vietnam?
We have a common friend from China. His name is Bolin, and he said that I am a typical person who would be called banana.
Yes.
White inside, yellow outside. And I'm like, could
but
be
I don't
true.
I think that banana's got some chocolate on the outside.
On the inside.
On the inside of it, yes.
Yeah, I feel black sometimes.
Yes, you are.
If you can,
all the time.
I don't know. It's like, I don't want to go into that, but if I could, I imagine this is how it would feel to be black. Obviously, I can't know how it is to be black.
I close my eyes and tell you. Oh my gosh, there's a black woman here in the room with me. Yes.
Yeah, but I imagine, okay, people told me I sometimes behave like a black lady.
Yes.
Just saying.
And a black guy, me, says that. And so, obviously, Timmy said it. He's from South Africa.
True.
So obviously.
Two independent sources.
Experts. We know black women. So.
You know your mothers and your sisters.
Oh, my gosh. Ooh, don't bring that in there. No, but don't you find like sometimes... Like some of the differences with you and Eunice is because you guys come from two different cultures.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. And
I
meet so many rather frustrated women or wives of those particular Swedish men that marry foreign women. And I think it's very often the same. What they are frustrated about. Yeah. It's like lack of leadership, lack of initiative, lack of ambition. That's
because when you're born here as a male, they take your spine and just rip it right out. No backbone.
But it's pretty much, and I think, I don't know, but is it because those women I'm talking to grew up in countries where men are much more dominant. Men would be like the head of the family, and they would decide much more. Somewhat maybe bullies. Yeah. They would be like socially accepted. So they are very used to that, and then they come to Sweden, and it's almost the opposite. Like women are really bossy. They're really dominant. Ooh. They tell you where to go, what to do. Ooh, I think men. In many cases, when I talk to other women, they is the right word, enjoy that?
They lay down and take it. That's the word.
It's not like they are they are forced into that, but they just find themselves in that, and they're okay with the woman initiating. Hey, should we do that? They're like, yeah, that's fine. Should we do this? Yeah, that's fine. Like, can you do this? Yeah, you can decide. I mean, and it obviously frustrates a woman because like I want a partner.
You don't get any feedback.
Yeah, you don't get any resistance. You don't get anything to like work with. You're just like, okay, whatever you decide, we're going to do that.
This is really funny because what you're saying is that here's a lot of women who are expecting to get a little more give and take from that relationship, and they keep giving, and the man keeps taking.
Yeah. Hey, they would call it, well, that's a good system because everyone is a win-win. Like, no, it's not a win-win.
No, it's not. No.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think when I talk to some people, they are like, how can you accept that? How can you? And I'm like, well, I can decide to get divorced as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, either I find myself in that and try to find a way to work around it, or a way to accept it, or a way to live with it.
Exactly.
Or I go crazy and murder him, or I get a divorce. So
I have to visit you in jail. She's like, here's my past. I'm like, Lynn, okay, wow, you really did that. I never I thought you were kidding. You know,
like,
I'm sorry.
I thought it wasn't that bad.
Really?
I told you every time we met.
I'm like, wow, okay. Yeah, but it's so.
It has to catch himself.
Exactly. I have to process this so I don't say too many things here. But I think one of the biggest things for us was food. So that
food, but is it also because you're a chef, or just because of your
I think it's
background?
I think it's just my background. I just used to eating a lot of food. And don't look at my stomach when I say that. Just look at my baby.
Kidding.
And when I moved to Sweden, no one used spices or anything. It's just salt and pepper.
Salt? It's a spice.
Yeah, salt. Wow, that's a spice. And so I found the food here being really plain. Up in the north of Sweden,
it is very plain.
People would serve you salad without any salad dressing.
Yeah. It's still like that.
No salt or pepper, just
no.
a bunch of chopped up lettuce and some cucumbers and tomatoes. And I was like, wow.
You want to have the pure taste of the vegetables that are imported from Netherlands.
It didn't grow here. Yeah, if I want the pure taste of that, I'd go marry me a rabbit. And so that was like one of our big things, like with food, you know.
But was that a discussion or a conflict point?
Oh my God.
Oops.
I have my stories. Yeah, and especially, oh my gosh, we would like always talk about food, and like our kids grew up eating like Swedish food.
Blood.
So, and I would just die. And I was like, I can't take a falukorv again.
Falukorv is like this hyper-processed meat. Meatish. It's not even real meat. It's like a little bit of meat.
Yeah, it's like I mean, they send it through the grinder so many times, so it just comes out all smooth, like the stuff you put on the back of the wallpaper, you know, and then they kind of cook it so it gets all rubbery. But my kids loved it.
All kids love falukorv, though.
Falukorv, köttbullar.
Yeah,
meatballs.
But it's not real meat, and it's a very tiny amount of meat.
No, we always made ours fresh.
Okay, but then it's like real meat.
Beef.
Yeah,
yes, that's always. Everything was like from scratch except for falukorv.
You didn't have the patience to put it through the grinder again and again and again and again.
I'm not gonna make that. Don't know what's in it. How many lungs? It's meat. Lungs are not meat. Okay.
So food was a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, like, so when we first moved here, when I first moved to Sweden, Annette had, so our youngest Nicole, she was in the baby pram in the carriage, and she was outside. Mm-hmm. It was cold outside.
Yeah, but that's what you do.
You know, but here in Sweden, people put their babies, so they wrap them up, put them in the carriage, and let them sit outside and sleep.
Yeah.
It's just...
They sleep really well.
I know, but
it's really healthy.
It's not an American thing, okay?
No, it's not an American thing, obviously.
And so I'm like, my baby's outside in the cold. It's like,
and I'm inside in the warm.
It's like minus 10 degrees outside. She's out there. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, Annette, what are you doing? You're trying to kill our baby. 'Cause I'm thinking like, I've read stories about how in the old days, people put people out on the ice, let them kill, and push the old people off the cliffs and stuff up here. And so I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, but everyone's out there. I'm like, oh, no, you will not freeze my baby. And so we had this big fight about, was it safe and stuff like that. She's like, you know what? Just look outside. How many other carriages do you see out there? I'm like, quite a lot. I guess other people are stupid too.
But that's what they do even in kindergartens.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but I mean, now I'm used to it. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
in the
But
beginning-
when
I moved here, or I thought it was like really immoral because people used to go topless on the beach. I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these breasts on it. I can't take it anymore. I gotta go home. I'm not a sinner. And so,
well, I haven't seen that happening. I would be okay.
But I moved here in '96. So back in the beginning of the '90s, people still went around topless at the beaches.
It's not happening now, though.
No, I hope not. I hope
No.
But there's a lot like the use of words and how we use words, and even though Annette and I spoke English, the English, the word that what we thought the word meant, like, I know what the word meant, and she just didn't know.
She thought it meant something else.
Yeah, and so we were just on crazy things.
Crazy things.
Yeah, but at the same time, because of the differences, it also makes life interesting. So now I'm just talking about the problems, but it's not all problems, but there's always problems.
Did you understand that, guys? It's not all problems, but there are always problems.
Yes. And that's because there's always, I mean, we've been married for 28 years and there's still misunderstandings. There's still things like, I still have a very American way of doing things. She has a very Swedish way of doing things.
Those two things are not the same.
No, or just like Christmas time, what she expects at Christmas time is very Swedish. I want to have colored lights that blink in time to the music that I want to have blasting to all my neighbors. And she's like, no, we just have to have just pretty white lights, Ollie white lights, because that's very Swedish. I'm just like, we gotta have some color. No, we don't. It's my house too. Well, not really. I mean,
wow.
If I pushed you off the roof, it'd be just fine. I'm not going to push her off. No. And so it would be things like that, like what's expected or what's normal, and what's normal for her is not normal for me. And
but don't you feel that you have adjusted a lot because the society around is Swedish, and it somehow backs her view of how it's supposed to be?
Yeah, that's one of the problems, is that because now we're living in her culture, and that means that her culture is the dominant culture. And so it's really hard to have American things or even African American things in our house, or for the kids to grow up knowing, the other side of the other cultural half of who they are. It's really difficult, and at some point you just have to decide what's worth it. It's not always worth it. Sometimes you just make the compromise, not because you want to, but this is where you're at. You marry someone from another culture. They can't do everything that you want to do, and they're not going to understand it. They don't have a reference point, and you've got to be gracious enough to make room so that both of you guys can be who you are, but it's always going to be a compromised, modified version of who you are.
Yeah, it can never be the person you thought or wanted to be in the setting you thought you would be.
No, exactly. And there's things that you won't understand. Like Annette doesn't understand the whole slavery thing or Black Lives Matter. She just doesn't get it, and it bothers me, and I can get really irritated.
But she's not black, and she's
married to a black man.
Yeah, but she can't relate. She can't relate.
She should wake up. Okay. But
she's not woke enough that you said that.
Yeah, but it's like, because there's certain things that she won't experience either. So a lot of the racist things that I have to deal with, she never understand. No, she doesn't understand it. So it's hard. It takes her longer to process that because in her world that doesn't happen.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I think I look forward to when we move to Germany and Jonas gets to be in my culture, how I grew up. I just no, I just want to see what kind of, because you are actually different people in different cultures.
Yeah.
Like Ed in Sweden is a different Ed than Ed in America.
No.
Yes, you are.
I might be. I don't know.
I'm sure because if you crack a joke here in Sweden, maybe some people would get it, or
Yeah,
some
that's
people
true.
don't. And in
That's
the
true.
US, maybe 90% of the people would get it.
Yeah, I have to joke about different things. I can't say I'm going to hit you because people are like, oh my gosh, you're so violent. You hit me. I'm going to call the police. Like, what? It's a joke.
Yeah, but I mean, I just look forward to see how he will cope, because I think he never. I've lived abroad now in Sweden for a long time, and I have tried to live at different places and met a lot of different people. And I think for Jonas, all of this meeting a lot of different people and other people has started much later in life than it started with me.
Yeah.
And even if I try to explain to him how my life was in Germany, growing up with this identity issues like, am I German? Am I Vietnamese? Am I German? Vietnamese? I mean, our kids will somehow get this too.
Yeah.
At some point, because even though my second kid looks really white, I think they will still somehow have this reference to what I cook, what kind of food. And actually, Nomi, she really likes Asian food.
Yeah.
So she really enjoys that. And where does that come from? And Jonas, I think in the beginning, he always thought, or he still says that he's so bothered by the level of noise that we make, my parents and me, and
so
like
Swedish.
that's so loud. Oh, why you always scream? Like, oh, why you always talk so loud? Like, but this is our voices. How am I supposed to change that? I can't be whispering all the time around you. And this is why do you have to scream? I'm not screaming. That's the volume of my voice.
That's what Annette says to me all the time. She's like, "You're so loud. You don't have to. Can't you just lower your voice?" I'm like, "What? No, no, I'm alive. I'm not dead yet."
And I also think what's strange for me is that I'm really connected with my family, and he's not. Wow. And now I start to be really connected with his family, but he's still not. So it's really weird.
But that's interesting though, because I think when I moved here, I felt like Swedish families aren't the family tie is not as strong as in other places. So my family can have a big influence in my life, and I really care about what happens to them. And I find in Swedish families, it always feels like the parents are like, oh, okay, well, you move out the house, you have your own thing to do. Well, we don't have anything more to do with you. You know, we'll see us if you want to see us. I'm like, ooh.
My parents.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. You know, so just that whole family thing, or what we think is good or bad or whatever, is different. But that was. Yeah, so I can understand that Eunice going to Germany would be like,
I think culture shock for him.
Yeah, I mean, because he would be a minority for the first time in his life.
Ooh, but still, he wouldn't.
Because you were kind of a minority in Germany, and you're a minority here.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm an immigrant wherever I go.
Yeah, it's like you're always an odd man. But I think for him, coming from being part of a dominant culture, you don't realize what that does to you until you have to now live as an immigrant. And you may find it really frustrating.
But I think also that it's not as a big shock for him because he's very white and he's moving to Germany, which is predominantly white.
Yeah, so he'll gain some white privilege there. And as long as he doesn't open his mouth. You know?
No, but also, and he looks maybe good to people. Yeah. And then he says he's the right kind of immigrant. He's Swedish. Right. Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, that's so nice. Yeah. If you say, oh, I'm from Uzbekistan, people are like, oh, you're from Uzbekistan.
Right. Exactly.
So they have this concepts, stereotypes, and like, oh, you're Swedish. Just like
and he's tall and Swedish, blonde. He's like got all worked
and people
up.
Would be like, oh, so happy. But I mean, if I would go somewhere else, people would not be the same way. Most of the time, I haven't gotten any negative feedback. Or maybe just surprised, like, oh, where do you come from? Oh, I come from Germany. They're like, but where do you really come from?
Oh.
That's like, where do you really come from?
That's when I take my stick out and I beat them. Like, I'll show you where I come from.
And where do your parents come from?
I'm like, in the same place your parents came from.
So but I think interracial things will always, as you say, it's fun also because it's fun for me to meet with all these ladies and we can talk trash about our Swedish husbands.
Wow.
And we can totally relate. I mean, we can totally relate and we can talk about that. We can share our frustrations and also like but also encourage each other that, okay, this is how you should handle this, or this is how you can overcome this, or this is how you should talk about this issue so they understand.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I can also get really upset with Jonas. I can tell him like, you know what? I already talk Swedish. So what do you want? Like, do I talk? I don't even talk my mother tongue. I already talk Swedish to you. Do I not just understand Swedish?
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because you guys were speaking Swedish almost from the beginning, though, were you?
Yeah, maybe the first year we spoke English though, because I couldn't speak that fast Swedish. But then I learned proper Swedish.
I know. You speak Swedish really well. I hate you for that.
I'm Asian.
That's not why. Because you were, I don't know.
That's because God bless me.
Well.
So what kind of advice would you give to people out there in intercultural relationships?
Intercultural relationships are harder. They're the hardest kind of relationship to have.
How do you know?
Statistics.
Okay, I thought that you don't have a not interracial.
Well, I've been in other kinds of relationships before too. Okay. They are the most difficult. So statistically, the chance for divorce is a little bit higher with intercultural relationships, and the more different that culture is. So say like if you had grown up in Vietnam and you married someone from Japan.
Different.
It's not as different. There's a lot of things that cross over as opposed to if you had gotten married to someone from Africa.
Oh, I wonder if that.
Yeah, it would be. Think you and Timmy together.
We would have fun though.
Yeah, you would.
But also kill each other.
Yeah,
at the same time.
It would be like fun for a week and then both be dead in the apartment. But coming from America and marrying someone in Sweden would be there's a lot of lap over because Swedes love American culture.
Exactly.
They hate America, but they love American culture.
Yeah.
Really weird thing. And so there's a lot of things that were already existing here. Whereas if I had been an African black person and had come to Sweden, there's a lot, the distance is a lot larger, which means that the relationship has to fight that much more harder in order to stay together. So it's a lot of those things. So the cultural things is that your reference points are always based on when you're raised as a child.
And there are expectations that come from that.
Exactly. You have culture. Everyone has cultural expectations. And sometimes they're not compatible. And so...
You should find maybe that out before you get married.
Well, yeah. If you got married to someone and you never met them in their culture, stupid. That's because... You're not prepared. You don't know what you got yourself into. So there's a lot of things that you have to do to guide. Unless
you're Swedish, because you just adapt.
Exactly. I just go with the flow. I don't like conflict, so I just avoid it. Okay. Wow.
We're not trash talking Swedish culture. We are just trying to point out the differences and the difficulties that arise from that.
But the other thing also is that because Sweden is a reserved culture. So now you have that way that people express themselves. So in this culture, people talk really low because you don't want to disturb people. You want to keep things private.
You don't make conflicts. You don't have open conflicts.
Yeah. And so what happens
is sneaky conflicts.
You come to marry someone who comes from a culture where everything's out on the table.
Maybe Latinos.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, there's conflict. Because... the Swedish person doesn't have. If you grow up in a normal, regular Swedish family or environment where the people don't talk about conflicts, everything is hidden, repressed, where people don't even maybe hug each other or tell each other they love each other or compliment each other, and now you marry into another culture that's all open and expressive and talks about their feelings and shares things. That's just hard.
And I think maybe in the beginning it might not show as much because you're all lovey-dovey and I mean maybe the Swedish person is more affectionate and the other person is more reserved, especially when it's negative feelings. But then I think over time those restraints will
the differences
go away.
Are magnified over time. So you never see them in the beginning. You always see them over the long haul of the relationship.
Sorry, people, but that's the truth.
That's just what it is.
So you said you've been married for 28 years?
Yeah.
I've been married for 6, so.
Yes.
You can hear that it's not easy.
But it's in so, and especially here in our church where we have a lot of intercultural relationships. So we've been able to observe this also, firsthand, and you can see where people's expectations that they never talked about end up making problems for them. Where one person expects you to do it this way because that's how we do it, where I come from, and the person doesn't do it that way because they can't. And you have to practice, not having cultural superiority. You have to say, you know what? That's the way I do things at home in my own culture, but I'm in a different place now. And maybe I have to learn a different way, or maybe I have to accept a different way. And if you can accept and understand that things can be different, if you can be flexible, then you have a better chance of that relationship surviving. But if you're really super
thick-headed,
structured, some people are, and it's hard to translate this word, but you say fyrkantig, really square, that you follow all the rules to exactly what it says, And if you're inflexible that way, then you're probably not going to have a good relationship, and you might probably end up in divorce.
Yeah. Or you have a really bad or you're causing really bad mental health to the other one.
Yeah.
If they're trying to keep this together on their own.
Yeah, because these kind of relationships require a lot of flexibility, a lot of forgiveness, because you're constantly upsetting the other person or hurting the other person or being hurt or being upset.
And some things they won't change.
Yeah.
Some things won't change.
Exactly.
Sorry to say that, but some things won't change.
3:00 in Sweden on the 24th of December. Almost every single person in this country is watching the television to watch Donald Duck.
I know, it's ridiculous.
And it's such a part of the tradition.
If you don't do it.
If you don't do it, I mean, Swedish people can get really upset about that because they don't understand. Why don't you want to do this? This is tradition. That's what we do in Sweden, It
makes us, this is the whole, almost, it's the point with Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost the point. If you don't do this, what's the point with Christmas?
Exactly.
So it's like
you've ruined Christmas for everyone else because you didn't sit there on the couch and laugh at Donald Duck, which is almost the same as the Donald Duck show from last year.
And it's also politically correct now.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They cut all the black dolls.
This was done like in the 20s and the 30s. So you can imagine how the little black dolls looked. And
or the Chinese ones.
So they eliminated everything that was culturally relevant for that time. So it's adapted this time. What kind of craziness is that? That's just like... People didn't think the way that we think now. We preserve that so we can show our kids the difference. Back then,
it was like this. Yeah.
People thought that way. We don't think that way now because it wasn't right. But now I don't have a reference to show them.
No.
So
yeah. So that's something in Sweden. If you had advice for someone who's about to enter a relationship with a Swedish person, or maybe is in a relationship with a Swedish person and experiences frustration, what advice would you give them?
Pray.
Okay. If you don't believe in God, still pray.
Pray to something. Someone. I don't know what you have to do. No. Yeah, I mean, you have to sort of take a step back and have to understand that you're frustrated because you have another reference point. You're frustrated because you have expectations that you're just starting to realize what they are. And you probably didn't express that to that person. You're frustrated because things aren't going the way you thought they would go. And so you need to take a step back, and then you need to think, okay, that's not the way I thought it was going to go, but this is the way that it's going. What do I need to do to make this better? So you kind of have to take some responsibility and some ownership because you can't change a culture. And
especially if you live in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, if you move to Sweden and you hate the Swedish culture, and you're always talking about how I hate the Swedish culture. Why can't Swedes do things like we do back home? You're not.
Maybe
really,
it's not the right place to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really giving. You're being dishonest, and you're being kind of picky. Oh, it must be 9:00.
Yeah,
because the bells are ringing. Because they're having prayer in the church now, and so and it's unfair. It's unfair for you to come to another culture and expect for them to become your culture. That's just childish and stupid. So
Some strong words.
putting it out there, But if you can manage that and understand that this is something different, if I'm going to be married to this person, I'm also married to their culture. At some points where I can make the adjustments, I make the adjustments. We're going to have lussekatter. We're going to have these saffron buns for the 13th of December because it's Lucia, because that's what you do here.
Yeah.
We used to celebrate Thanksgiving. And in some ways, I kind of feel sad that none of the American things are celebrated now. So we don't have Thanksgiving because we don't really have anyone to have Thanksgiving with.
But it starts to become a thing, though, nowadays.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah. It
Really?
starts, yeah.
I hope so.
Yes.
Because Halloween is, I don't know.
Halloween,
I hate
Black
Halloween.
Friday.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving is just around the corner.
In Sweden, we had Black Week.
But I think this year it's also Black Week in other places because of Corona.
I haven't seen anything in the States. They might have had it some places in the States. But I think that one of the hardest things is probably just that you have to try to find a way to understand the culture that you're now in, and to understand that person you're married to within that culture.
But doesn't the other person also have some responsibility? Because now you only talk about the person who's not Swedish.
Yeah. Well, because I feel that
they can't help it.
Technically, I feel like the Swedish person, the weight is really on them, because if I'm a Swedish person and I marry someone who's not Swedish, I have to make that other person feel comfortable, and I need to make room for that other person. When I start expecting that other person to be more and more Swedish, what I'm saying is that
You're not good enough.
I don't accept you for who you are. I only accept you as the more Swedish you are. and it's really hard because Swedes do put this pressure on the other person.
True.
The culture and the Swedish person, only speak Swedish. It makes me so angry when I hear people say it. I'm like, what do you mean only speak Swedish? I come from another culture.
No, but sometimes people wouldn't say that directly, because that would maybe foster some open conflict. So they would maybe be more reserved, even more reserved, if you are not speaking Swedish, or they would be not as friendly or intimate, or not as open as if you were Swedish.
So we were in our church. We went from the other church, so we don't own this building. But I've heard people in the other church, when someone's speaking, they're married to someone or they're dating someone, and they'll come up because I speak English. They'll start speaking English to me, and some of the other people, but don't speak English to him. Only speak Swedish. They need to learn Swedish. I'm like, yeah, but even while you're learning Swedish, if you meet someone that speaks your own language or you speak their language, sometimes you just want that break where you don't have to keep thinking. And the Swedish person needs to understand that.
Yeah.
You can't just force them the Swedish culture, because you make resentment. And you have to give that person some time to breathe and just relax, because it's hard. You got to learn Swedish. You got to learn Swedish culture. You got to know all the history, all the crazy stuff that's not written.
Rules, the social rules.
It's really difficult, and so you really want people, if I'm a Swedish person, I marry someone who's not Swedish, or dating someone who's not Swedish, then I have to make extra steps and bend over backwards. The other person
do that.
The other person has to be just flexible, but the Swedish person has to go that extra step because it's your culture. You got to guide the other person. Yeah, you have advantages to this culture. You understand it, but you also there's things that you have just because you're Swedish in the Swedish culture that the other person doesn't have. And so you need to be open-minded. You need to learn your partner's culture so that you can help them to navigate the Swedish culture.
Ooh, good advice. So everyone, I hope you've learned something from this episode.
Yeah. And if you want to know more, write to us.
Yeah.
We have more to say, but you just need to write to us.
Ed has 28 years of experience on his back, and I've been married for
counseling and,
Well, I've been married for 6, but I've been together with a Swede for 12 years. So we have here someone who's married to a Swedish woman, and I'm married to a Swedish man. So,
and we have a lot of people around us who are also married to Swedes. And when all of us who are non-Swedish start talking, there's a common story.
A connection.
Yes. We all
Suffering.
We're all like, huh. Been there, done that. That sounds like my story. And all of a sudden, you're connecting, and
You're friends.
and I'm sure that the Swedish people feel the same way, whether it's someone talking a different volume or a different intensity or the food. I remember once when I was the youth pastor, we made food one day in the kitchen, and one of the older people came in. You know what? I don't know why do you do stuff like that? It's that weird smell. It doesn't even smell like a Swedish kitchen. It just smells foreign.
Okay,
like, I guess you
sorry.
could put your sheet over your face now. Wow. And I don't say stupid things. Like I'll walk around and be like, must be back in 1850. And people are like, what do you, and someone says, what do you mean by that? I'm like,
nothing.
I'm like, slavery ended in 1865. So I guess 1850, some people think it's still slave time. It's just like, oh my gosh. So sometimes it's just, I'll make my little statements and no one knows what I'm saying. But anyway, but it is a problem, where sometimes Swedish people just want something so Swedish. and you can't always be Swedish. You can't always do it. So it takes flexibility on both sides, openness, but the weight is still on the Swedish person if you're in the Swedish culture. Same thing, like if you move to America and you're married to me, then the weight falls on me because that's my culture. So,
thank you, Ed, for sharing.
Thank you, Lynn, for asking.
Thank you guys for listening. So tune in soon again.
Exactly.
And tell all your friends and subscribe to this podcast. And we're really happy for your support and your questions. So keep doing that.
Don't forget, make everybody subscribe.
Yes.
Because that's our point. Our plan is to dominate the world. All right. Take care, everyone. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh Nguyen and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.